My name's Elias Thorne, 45. I live in Blackwood Creek, Vermont. Time moves slow here. Routine was always the same, which brought me peace. I wake early, make my black brewed coffee, watch the sun rise. Then, I go to Blackwood Creek Cemetery for work. It's hard, needs patience. Late afternoon, I go home, eat, read, and sleep, ready for another identical day. My job at the cemetery is almost always quiet. Just the sound of the shovel, the dirt I moved. Sometimes, wind in the trees, or a distant bird. But over time, that quiet changed. After I unearthed the first, then the second coin, the cemetery got quieter, in a strange way. It wasn't a peaceful quiet, but one that weighed on me, like it was listening. Each time I dug a new grave, the shovel's sound broke that calm until I found the next coin. Then, the silence returned, heavier, as if even the earth was watching me. Over time, the cemetery stopped being just work. It became part of me. Each grave I opened, each bit of earth I turned, felt like I was preparing something for myself, a place waiting for me. The coins were a warning I couldn't shake, as if the earth was invading me silently, hurting me inside. I'd look at the empty graves and feel a chill, as if my name was already there, waiting. The cemetery silence was now inside me, and I felt so alone. It was a strange fear, something that left me helpless and wouldn't let go. When I got home, no relief came. The silence in my house seemed to amplify everything I felt at the cemetery, as if the walls held the echo of those graves. The coins I kept in an old oak cigar box under the bed. Every night before sleeping, I'd take out the box, count them again. A stupid habit, but one I needed to do. Each was a weight, a reminder of that thing coming from the earth, invading me. I'd look at them and feel a chill down my spine. Even with the fear and helplessness eating me inside, I still tried to pretend everything was fine. I'd wake up, drink my coffee, go to the cemetery. It was as if my body knew the routine, even if my head was somewhere else, just thinking about those coins. I dug graves, one after another, and each time the shovel hit the earth, I felt a shiver. That cemetery silence, which used to be just wind, now felt like a warning, a countdown to something. I tried not to think, but that thing had already started invading me, silently, and I was alone in this. I kept digging. Each shovel pushed me to that number stuck in my head. Every coin found, my name etched, was a gut punch, a heavy secret. The 100th was coming, I knew, bringing a cold, no-escape feeling. My throat tightened with fear. I counted coins in the box. 99 made me sweat. The next grave, the last, would decide my fate. Not knowing was slow poison, eating me inside. Death was invading, and I felt more alone than ever. The shovel felt heavier that day. Each strike hammered my chest. My muscles ached, not from fatigue, but pure fear. The dirt felt colder, wetter, as if the grave knew what was coming. I dug, sweat running, eyes fixed on the bottom, waiting. Not knowing what would happen tortured me. When the shovel scraped hard, my heart stopped. There, the 100th. I picked up the coin. Cold metal burned my skin. My name, again. It was a silent invasion, a true shock. I felt so alone, a heavy weight. I was the gravedigger, Now the next victim. I held the coin, cold metal burning my skin. My throat tightened with fear. That's when it happened. No sound, but a whisper I couldn't hear. The air felt heavy, like something invisible was near. My hairs stood on end. I looked around, open grave, trees, no one. Just the heavy cemetery silence. But the feeling of not being alone, of something watching me, wouldn't go away. Then, a dark blur, a quick shadow, vanished before I could focus. Something I glimpsed, making me doubt it was real. It was like death, always watched from afar, now whispering in my ear, circling me. Not knowing was poison. I felt too alone, a heavy weight on my back. I got out of the grave, the 100th coin cold in my palm. My head spun. The shadow, the whisper, they wouldn't leave my mind. I only wanted home, but something pulled me toward the funeral home. I arrived. The place was empty, quiet. On my table, an envelope. White, simple, no return address. My heart pounded. I opened it, hands trembling. Inside, a paper, a Vermont death certificate. My full name, birth date, all correct. Then what chilled me, the death date, tomorrow. My own certificate. This was real, not just coins. Fear became a scream stuck in my throat. Not knowing how or who suffocated me. I was the gravedigger, always handled others' deaths, but now it was my turn. I felt so alone, a huge weight. That marked me forever. I felt a hole in my stomach, not from hunger, but from pure panic. I kept reading that certificate over and over, looking for a mistake, anything. A wrong date, a different name, but no, it was all mine. Tomorrow. How? Who would do this? I tried to think it was a bad joke, a really terrible prank. But the coins, the 100th one, the figure I saw, it just didn't make sense. My head spun, trying to find an explanation, but there wasn't one. It was something invading me, breaking everything I knew. The fear turned into a desperation that wouldn't leave my head. I was alone, holding my own Vermont death certificate. Not knowing what to do just paralyzed me, like a poison. My hand was shaking. I couldn't tear the certificate. It felt like I couldn't even touch it. A bad joke, I thought. But the coins and the figure were too real to ignore. I threw the certificate down, but then I picked it back up without even thinking. I couldn't leave it there. I ran out of the Abbott and Sons funeral home preparation room, my heart pounding. I stumbled through the Blackwood Creek Cemetery, tripping over gravestones, feeling the cold grave dirt beneath my feet. Every step was a senseless escape from tomorrow. The cemetery seemed to watch me. Every open grave seemed to know. I looked back. Nobody. Just the heavy silence, mocking my despair. My mind screamed it was impossible. A nightmare, but the paper with my name and tomorrow's date was real. The air felt heavy, like death was already sucking everything out of it. My muscles ached, but I didn't stop. Where was I going? The danger wasn't a place. It was time. Not knowing what to do paralyzed me. It was a mistake, a prank I kept repeating. But the coins, the 100th one, the figure, everything fit together in a horrible way. Nobody would believe me. I got home, out of breath. The door felt too weak. I turned the keys, the sound echoing. D's. I pushed the couch and a heavy dresser against it. I knew it wouldn't do any good, but it was all I could do. A cold fear squeezed me. I grabbed the phone, dialed Art's number, my only friend. My hand was shaking so bad, I almost dropped it. I stopped. How do I say my death certificate showed up? I'm going to die tomorrow. He'd laugh or think I was crazy. Nobody would believe me. I felt so alone, it was worse than death itself. My house, once a safe place, had turned into a trap. The creaking wood and the shadows from the street became monsters. My heart was pounding hard, throbbing in my temples and my fingers. I sat on the cold floor, leaning against the wall, my knees pulled tight, shaking nonstop. The old wall clock in the living room, once ignored, was now an enemy. Its loud ticking pushed me toward midnight, toward tomorrow. A countdown that hurt me. Closing my eyes was useless. Coins, certificate, the figure in the cemetery. Everything repeated. An endless movie in my head. Sleep was impossible. Whatever this thing was, it wasn't coming from outside. It was inside me, eating me alive. The old wall clock's ticking, and the living room lights were flickering in this weird rhythm, like heavy breathing, and it just made my panic worse. I was huddled on the floor, and every flicker was like a shock, a warning. Then, this loud crash came from the kitchen. The glass on the counter just slid off by itself and shattered into 1,000 pieces. The sound, this cold hit me deep in my bones, freezing me up, just sucking all the warmth out. Fear was just drowning me, stealing my breath. I didn't know what it was, but it was coming for me, eating me up inside. I curled up, trying to disappear, but there was nowhere to run. Death was right there in the living room, sitting with me. The smell of grave dirt was just smothering me. I had to do something, anything. Suddenly, I crawled under the bed and pulled out the old oak cigar box where I kept the coins. I dumped everything out onto the floor, the metal clinking, echoing in the silent house. I spread the coins out, one by one, trying to find a pattern, a design, anything that made sense. But it was just my name, engraved on each one, and that same strange symbol. I remembered old Silas Croft's stories, the retired gravedigger. Stories about the land, old rituals, curses, but they were just bits and pieces in my head. Nothing that helped right now. I grabbed my phone, my hand shaking. I tried searching, coins with name, supernatural death certificate. No signal. The screen just froze up. Nothing. Just more and more questions. I felt like such an idiot. Just some regular guy who suddenly became a character in a bad horror movie. My throat tightened with so much loneliness. No one would believe me. I was all alone, invaded by something I couldn't even understand, let alone fight. The night just wouldn't end. I was exhausted, but the adrenaline kept me wide awake, my eyes glued to the window. Outside, the sky started to lighten. That pale gray that usually brings a kind of relief, you know? But for me, it was just the beginning of the end. Despair just maxed out. I curled up even tighter in the corner of the living room, trembling so hard my teeth chattered. It was a cold I felt deep inside. And that's when I saw it. It wasn't just a blur or some stupid shadow. It was clearer, more real, but still, something I just couldn't explain. In the window's reflection, right there, over that dull dawn, I saw myself. But it wasn't really me. It was a weird version of me, pale, with empty eyes, like a dead man. The image was kind of see-through, like a ghost. But I could still make out every detail, every line. In its see-through hand, this thing was holding a shovel, and on the ground, right at its feet, there was a dark, deep hole, exactly like a grave that had just been dug. The vision lasted maybe a second, but it was enough to stick in my head. There was no sound at all, just this cold, deep certainty that hit me. The danger wasn't some monster coming to get me. It was me, my own fate. My face there, the next one. The shock was instant. Right then, it had completely taken over. I knew it now. The antique wall clock hit 6. The sun outside came up fully, just throwing this cold light into the room. I couldn't move, you know? I just stood there, frozen, feeling this huge pressure on my chest, like I couldn't breathe anymore. No fight, no scream, nothing. Just this quiet acceptance in my head. I knew it. Death was right there, all around me. Cold and so real, I couldn't even pretend it wasn't. Tears came, but it wasn't panic. It was a heavy sadness, a loneliness I'd never felt before. There was no way to defend myself, no strength, nowhere to run. Hope just died right there, and fear became this cold acceptance. My last bit of fight was gone. I was the gravedigger, and now the next grave was mine. That howl of dying didn't matter anymore. It was just a solid, it's coming. That was a weight just crushing me. I just waited, frozen, for what tomorrow would bring. The antique wall clock in the living room, that enemy, hit 6:30. I was still breathing. The huge pressure on my chest that felt like it was crushing me slowly started to ease up. The smell of grave dirt, which had been choking the house, faded like smoke. The TV, which was just hissing static, suddenly went quiet. The static stopped. It was like whatever had been all around me had backed off, or just put off what was going to happen. I felt this weird emptiness and a different kind of silence, heavier, because what I'd been expecting didn't come. With my legs feeling like jelly, I got up, exhausted, but still here. My hand was still shaking, but I had to call Art. I dialed the number, my phone almost slipping. He answered, his voice normal, just worried about me being late for work. I tried to tell him about the night, the coins, the Vermont death certificate, what I saw. The words came out all jumbled, making no sense. He cut me off, thinking I had a fever or had been drinking. The line just went dead. Alone again. The fear came back, but now with a loneliness that felt even heavier. I dragged myself to the table, my legs failing. The certificate was intact. My hands trembled, almost ripping the paper. Inside, just a blank sheet. My heart raced. I ran under the bed, pulled out the old oak cigar box. I dumped the coins on the floor, recounted them. The 100th one, with my name and tomorrow's date, was gone. The others just looked like old coins, dull, symbols kind of faded. The proof had vanished. But the fear, that wasn't going anywhere. My house, once my safe spot, now felt like a trap. My legs could barely hold me, but I had to get out. I pushed the dresser blocking the door. The noise echoed. The wood groaned as I forced my way through. Outside, the cold morning air hit my face. The sun was already high, and birds were singing, not caring at all. The street was quiet, life just going on. Aimless, I just knew I needed to get away from that place, from the feeling I had almost died. I walked aimlessly, the sun on my face, but I couldn't really see anything. Suddenly, Agnes Miller, my neighbor, came out to water her plants. She smiled, her usual smile, and asked, "Elias, everything all right? You look pale." I tried to answer, but the words wouldn't come. Just a strange sound. I couldn't explain what had happened. Her gaze, full of real concern, was a mirror. I saw myself there. A man who was done for. A ghost who'd survived, but wasn't whole anymore. I kept walking. The world was a blur. Houses, people, everything felt fake. In my head, all I saw was the image of my pale face, empty eyes, the shovel in my hand, just like I saw in the window. I didn't die, but death got me in a way there's no coming back from. The tomorrow disappeared. Now it's the when that haunts me. This loneliness, this shock nobody understands, it's heavier than any grave. I'm alive, but not free. Trying to go back to work was torture. The shovel, once part of my arm, now weighed a ton. Every grave I dug was a hole for me, a mirror of my end. I can't step foot in the Abbott and Sons funeral home preparation room anymore. Just thinking about it gives me the creeps. At home, I got a little crazy. I checked the locks constantly, avoid the roads near Blackwood Creek Cemetery, and the old wall clock became my enemy. Normal life vanished, leaving nervous tics, silly fears, and a distrust that wouldn't go away. There's no tomorrow anymore, just a when that chokes me. Anything, a headache, a car braking, a bird hitting a window, turned into a warning. My heart doesn't know peace anymore, it just pounds. The air feels heavy, like death is sitting on the couch. And sleep, it's worse. Nightmares drag me back to that night, to the certificate, to the pale specter in the mirror. Not knowing what's coming is a slow poison, eating me up inside. A fear that won't let go, no way to escape it. After trying to talk to Arthur Art Jenkins and failing, I just shut everyone out for good. Nobody would get it. I avoided neighbors, co-workers, everyone. Agnes Miller tried to chat, but I just ran. Couldn't stand to see her worry when I couldn't explain anything. Normal conversations just felt empty, meaningless. I feel like a stranger in my own life, carrying this burden all by myself. The loneliness that used to protect me now feels like a prison I built for myself. A shock nobody else sees. I tore everything apart. My house, drawers, mattress, the Blackwood Creek Cemetery. I checked graves and tools, searching for the coin or the death certificate, but nothing. The coins I had saved just looked old, no strange shine to them anymore. It was like the proof had vanished, or never even existed. My head goes crazy. Did I make it all up? Am I losing it? That doubt is worse than any fear. Now, even the smell of grave dirt messes me up. A heavy rain just paralyzes me, leaves me breathless. It's like the Blackwood Creek Cemetery has stuck to me, to my skin. I can't smell it without remembering that night when I almost choked. If I see a pile of dirt on the street, I look away. My body goes cold. The world feels like a trap. Every piece of ground reminds me of what's coming. A fear that won't let go, like something has completely invaded me. Avoiding mirrors has become a habit. Every time I catch a reflection, it's a punch to the gut. For a second, it's not me I see. It's that pale guy with empty eyes, a shovel in his hand. It's like my face got stolen, you know? My face has become a disguise for this thing. It's a shock. A fear of not knowing who I am. My identity has been invaded, like they erased me. I'm a ghost. My name is George. Every day my phone alarm goes off right at 6 a.m. I get up, make some strong coffee, and check the news while I drink it. Then I catch the 7:15 MBTA bus to the financial district office, where I spend the day organizing documents and answering emails. At night, I head back home, have a simple dinner, and watch some TV before bed. It's a quiet, predictable life. But this routine, this normal life, it's a lie I tell myself every single day. Because every night, before I go to sleep, I have to do this hand thing. I scrub them, hard, almost ripping off my skin, trying to get off the dirt that won't come off, the invisible splinters from the casket wood I still feel. Then I face the mirror, and what I see isn't me. It's a stranger with sunken eyes, full of a fear that won't leave, of something bad that grabbed me and won't let go. My apartment, which used to be my refuge, has turned into a cell. The walls feel like they have the same stuffy air of a casket. The silence suffocates me, making me think only about that, about the burial that keeps playing over and over in my head. Every shadow is a constant reminder. I can't escape. It's a prison, and I'm stuck with my own fear, not knowing what to do, and alone with this horrible thing. The worst part is the smell. No matter where I am, I catch that scent of damp earth, of a freshly dug grave. It's like it's stuck to me, on my skin, inside my nose. And the rain never stops. Even when the sun is shining outside, I hear it hitting, hard, drowning everything out, exactly like on the day of the burial. It's a memory that won't let go of me, that pulls me right back there. I don't know if it's real or if my head is playing tricks on me, but the despair feels the same. I tried talking to Anna, my sister. I thought she'd understand, but it didn't help at all. I told her about my hands, the splinters, the smell of earth, the despair inside the casket. She just looked at me with that pitying look, like I'd completely lost my mind. She talked about stress, about therapy. She didn't really listen to me. Nobody believes me. I don't know what to think, and this loneliness tightens in my chest. It's like this horrible thing had grabbed me and isolated me from everyone. I couldn't accept it. Nobody believed me, so I had to find the answers myself. At night, when everyone else was asleep, I started rummaging around. I went through old boxes, photos, teenage stuff. I was looking for something, anything, that would explain what was happening. The fear pushed me, and I didn't know what to think anymore. I needed to know if I was crazy or if something real had marked me. And I felt so alone. Deep in the box, under some old notebooks, my fingers hit something smooth and wooden. I pulled it out. It was a smaller, hidden box. I opened it, and my stomach dropped. Inside there was an Ouija board, dusty, the letters almost faded. Next to it, a glass chipped at the rim. That hit me like a punch to the gut. An image flashed in my head. Me, a kid, laughing with some friends, on a rainy night, playing with that stupid thing. In that moment, everything clicked. The glass game. We thought it was just a game. But what if it wasn't? What if one of us never really left that game? A chill ran down my spine. I smelled dirt. My hands started to shake. It wasn't just a nightmare. This was real. My hand trembled, but I touched the dusty board. Right away, an intense cold went up my fingers. It wasn't from the air. It felt like it came from inside that old wood. A weird, almost electric feeling, like something was gently pulsing underneath. I pulled my hand back immediately, shaking it in the air, trying to get rid of that touch. "It's just your head, George," I told myself, trying to calm down, thinking it was just dumb nerves. But the vibration wouldn't leave, you know? That cold, tingling thing stayed there, bugging me deep down. A strange feeling I couldn't explain. My heart pounded. My heart clenched again, and I swear I stopped breathing. The cold in my hand was still there, but now a whisper. Barely anything, coming from the darkest corner of the room. They weren't words. It was a dragging of voices, a sound that froze me. The hairs on my neck stood up right away, like someone had touched me. I tensed up, every muscle locked, trying to figure out that sound. What was it? But as quickly as it came, it stopped. It vanished. I stood there, in the dark, my heart pounding, not knowing if it had been real or if my head was already playing another trick on me. I didn't know what to think anymore. My heart was still pounding, and I could barely breathe after that whisper vanished. My hands were shaking, but I forced them deeper into the box, under the board. There was something else there. I pulled it out. It was an old, faded photo of us as kids. Me, Caleb, Anna, Liam, all laughing that night of the glass game. But Caleb's face, the one who always took everything too seriously, looked different. A dark, damp stain covered him. It looked like dirt. I tried to wipe it with my thumb, but it wouldn't come off. It just smeared more. And a smell. Oh, the smell of a damp grave, of cold, rotten earth. It invaded my nostrils, tied my stomach in knots. I recoiled immediately, almost throwing up. The fear wasn't just in my head anymore. It was real. It was physical. It was a stench that gave me the creeps. The rotten earth smell made me drop the photo back into the box, almost throwing it. My head was spinning, my stomach twisted. I took the glass. That chipped one wasn't where I'd left it. It was turned upside down, a little to the side, like someone had moved it. Right then, out of the corner of my eye, I saw it. Something slender, a quick shadow, sliding out of the room into the dark hallway. I spun around, fast, my breath caught in my throat. Nothing was there, just still air. But the door, which I was sure I had closed, was there, ajar. A dark crack, a black void that seemed to call me. I felt a cold dread in my gut. It wasn't just my head. It couldn't be. The half-open door was a black hole. It felt like it was sucking the little air left in the room. I stood there, frozen, unable to move a muscle. My whole body turned to stone, but inside, panic screamed. The fear was so strong, I tasted metal in my mouth, like blood. That dark crack looked like an eye staring at me, calling me to a place I didn't want to go. The hallway was too silent. A heavy silence, not of peace, but of something waiting. I felt a shiver run up my spine, not from cold, but from an invisible presence coming from there. I didn't know what to do, and I felt so alone. I knew I had to close the door, but my feet wouldn't move. It was like something was holding me there, forcing me to stare into that emptiness, into the darkness that seemed to breathe. The darkness in the doorway was pulling at me, and suddenly a flash. It wasn't light, it was memory. That summer, at Grandma's house in Marblehead, us laughing, thinking it was just a game. The glass moving by itself, the letters, the nervous laughter. We called it a spirit, but it was just for fun, right? Only now, standing here, with this thing staring at me from the door, it didn't seem so funny anymore. That game, the glass dragging across the letters, the dumb questions we asked. Did we open a real door to this horrible thing I'm feeling now? Fear squeezed my chest. I started thinking the casket wasn't an accident, but a consequence. A cold loneliness hit me. I messed with something too big, something that never left me alone again. The trauma of the casket, of my hands raw, mixed with the memory of that stupid game. It was all connected. Death marked me not just from inside the casket, but by something we called out years ago. I couldn't look away from the doorway. My reflection, but not me. Pale face, dirt in my hair, eyes hollow, empty. My hands, once raw and splintered, now looked thin, almost transparent in the dim light. I felt cold inside. It was a dead man's reflection, mine. I didn't know what to think anymore. Was I alive? Or just an empty shell, the part that screamed in the casket still stuck, watching me? That face stared back at me, lifeless, and I felt it wasn't just an image. It was a presence, something that clung to me down there, in the darkness of the casket, or maybe even long before, with that stupid Ouija board game. Alone, but not. That thing was with me, showing itself in my own face. A terror took over me. I touched my face, felt my skin warm, but what I saw in the doorway was cold, dead. It was the trauma, eating me inside, turning me into something that wasn't me anymore. It had finally gotten me. I was the face of death. There was no escaping it. The doorway, which was just a reflection before, turned into a bottomless hole. The darkness spread out. The light and shapes of things disappeared. The walls of the room seemed to curve inward, like they were caving in under an invisible weight of dirt. The air got thick and heavy, hard to breathe. It smelled of mold and damp earth. The floor, once solid under my feet, softened into sticky mud that pulled me down. Every dark corner of the room became a hole calling out to me. My home, my refuge, was turning into the grave. It wasn't home anymore, but a giant casket swallowing me, brick by brick. The silence wasn't peace, but the muffled sound of dirt, pressing, suffocating. Every creak, every gust of wind was the shovel throwing dirt, the echo of the burial. Fear and uncertainty seemed to seep into every crack in the walls. I was alone, but not. It was the loneliness of someone dead, buried. The house seemed to feel me, watch me, trap me. I didn't leave the grave. It came to me, forming around me. The trauma was the foundation of everything. The walls were the limit of my despair. The ceiling, the lid of the casket. I was trapped, again, and this time it was at home. The darkness in the doorway seemed to pulse, alive, shapeless, with a cold presence that enveloped me. I could feel it. An old, forgotten smell of earth invaded everything. The shadow moved on the walls, stretching like invisible arms, trying to grab me. I felt a light touch on my shoulder, a shiver, not from cold, but from something probing me. testing. The darkness came from everywhere, closing in. The apartment seemed to become this shadow, squeezing me, crushing me. The fear was almost physical, a cold mass in my chest. I didn't know if it was the grave pulling me back, or if it was that thing from the glass game finally coming for me. It wasn't real loneliness. I wasn't alone. I was surrounded. It wasn't just in my head. It was physical, real. I could feel the pressure, the weight. My hands, the same ones that punched the casket wood, now trembled uncontrollably. I was in the middle of something I didn't understand, and there was no way to fight. The touch on my shoulder, which was light before, turned into an icy grip. It wasn't a human hand. It had no fingers, but the sensation was of something holding me, pulling me. The air left my lungs. I stood frozen, unable to breathe, my body locked by panic. It was like the cold of the grave had reached me, but not a cold of temperature. It was a cold of death. I felt the pressure increasing, slowly turning me. I didn't want to look, but I had no control. My eyes were fixed on the darkness of the doorway, which now seemed to be right behind me. The fear was a silent scream in my head. There was no more doubt. It wasn't just my mind. It was real. This thing was there, touching me, taking me. It wasn't loneliness. It was a dread of being accompanied by something that shouldn't exist. The trauma of the grave, the despair of being buried, all of it came back with that touch. I wasn't alone anymore. I belonged to it. That was the certainty that death had marked me, and now it was taking me back. The grip on my shoulder turned into a violent pull, throwing me hard to the floor. I hit my head again, felt the taste of iron in my mouth. The darkness of the doorway vanished, and the apartment went back to normal. But it wasn't normal. I was sprawled on the floor, gasping for air, my body aching, my head a mess. Fear was a knot in my throat. But the thing was gone. Or was it? I didn't know what to think. My hands trembled. My heart pounded like a drum. I dragged myself, trying to find a corner, any safe place, but I felt so alone. The trauma of the grave, now mixed with the touch of that thing, was too much. I was free from the grip, but trapped in a horrible thing that had no end. My hand was still shaking, but it went straight to my shoulder, where I felt the pull. My skin was icy, but the cold wasn't the worst part. There was a furrow, a deep mark, like claws had held me there, tearing. It wasn't from the fall. It was from something else. Something that really touched me. That was real, on my own skin, and I didn't know what to think anymore. Only felt dread. I wasn't alone. I tried to scream. I swear, I tried with all the strength I had left, but no sound came out. It was stuck in my throat, a tight knot of pure fear. Only air came out, rasping, a rough noise, but no real sound. It was a silent despair, something awful no one would hear, no one would understand, even if I could have. I was just standing there, with that deep mark on my skin, proof the thing was real and had gotten me, completely alone with it. The loneliness was crushing me, heavier than death itself. I got up, stumbling, and the apartment wasn't the same. The walls seemed to shift, the lines all crooked. The floor was tilting. I looked at the ceiling, and it was spinning, like the whole world was upside down. I didn't know if it was just fear, if I was losing my mind, or if the place was actually warping. My trauma was breaking me. and I felt so alone. It was a new kind of awful, visual, but coming from inside me. I needed proof, anything to tell me I wasn't going crazy. The apartment was twisted. I swear it was. I ran to the window, pulling the curtain hard, looking for the street, for any normalcy out there. But the view was blurry. The street lights seemed to twist. I went back to the walls, scratching the paint with my nails, feeling the rough texture, like the very structure was melting. Was any of it real? I just didn't know what to think anymore. The trauma was getting me, and I was all alone in this desperate search. Then, suddenly, everything went quiet. A heavy silence, not peaceful, but a cold, empty hole. I just stood there in the middle of the room, and the loudest sound was my own heart beating. Nobody, just me. The loneliness swallowed me whole, like an invisible beast. The fear was a constant whisper, and I didn't know what to think anymore. I was alone with that awful thing. The silence was crushing me. My hands ran over my body. I looked in the mirror, searching for the dead reflection, not knowing what to think. I had to check every corner, every shadow in the apartment. If the door was open, if the glass had moved. It was an endless loop, a loneliness that forced me into this constant checking, something that wouldn't let me rest because of what happened. But the worst thing was the smell. Damp earth, old stuff, death. It wouldn't go away, no matter how much I scrubbed my skin or washed my clothes. Like it had gone up my nose and just stuck there, inside my head. A stench that choked me, reminding me every second of that dark hole. The smell of the casket, of the grave, made me wonder if I was even out of it. The trauma was that constant smell, and I felt so alone with it. I tried to talk to my sister. I called her. But how do you explain something that just doesn't make any sense? I died and came back, and now I smell dirt and have invisible splinters in my hands. She'd just think I was losing it, that the trauma broke me. Her voice sounded so far away, so normal. I hung up. It felt like I was in another world, all by myself, with this thing stuck to me, something only I could feel. Nobody would understand what I was going through, and that just pushed me away from everything. My sister's voice, so normal, but my life wasn't normal anymore. The smell of earth just clung to me, and I felt so incredibly alone. My eyes landed on the dusty box in the corner of the bookshelf, the Ouija board. We used to play with it when we were teenagers, thinking it was stupid. Now, it was just staring back at me, one eye open, fixed on me, like the game never really ended. Something stuck there, waiting. And now, maybe it had found me. Something old, a fear I didn't even know I had. Just thinking about it gave me a cold knot in my stomach. I dragged myself to the mirror. The Ouija board was still watching me, but what really sent a chill down my spine was my own reflection. It wasn't the George I knew, but an emptied-out version, with deep, dark circles under his eyes and a look that seemed like it had seen too much. Death had left a permanent mark on my face. My hand went up shaking to touch the cold glass, trying to feel the difference, the skin that wasn't the same anymore. I didn't know what to think. I had come back, but who was I? The trauma was seeing a stranger staring back at me, and the loneliness of not recognizing myself was this horrible thing that trapped me, pulling me away from who I was. or who I thought I was. My identity got buried with my body. What was left was just an echo, a shadow.